Yo, it's your boy Oakley, and today we're about to do yet another My Hero What If. This is what if Deku was the reincarnation of Madara Uchiha. This would all start off with Madara being killed in his last wishes to Hagoromo to basically reincarnate him into a different world, as if he was reincarnated into the Naruto universe again, he would be hated and he would be killed right off the spot. And he doesn't want to bring a burden on somebody who just have a baby, and they don't want the kid to be Madara Uchiha. So he would basically be reincarnated into the My Hero universe. He would be reincarnated within Deku. As Deku is born, Inka would hold him in her hands as she would see at his eyes are flickering to red to black, as she would think that this kid already has a quirk, and she would be excited. So she would tell Hasashi about how Deku already has a quirk. Deku would basically smile as Inka would smile right at him. 4 years later, as Deku is pretty much knowing of his quirk, and he would already have two Tomoe of when he was playing with Bakugo. Bakugo was basically about to fall, and he actually hit his head. Him being unconscious for a couple of minutes would make Deku think that he died. And Deku would go to help him as Bakugo would basically get up and slap his hand away, as he said he didn't need your help. So their friendship would break right then and there, as Deku would gain the two Tomoe Sharingan as his eyes was hurt. He would go home and tell his mom that his eyes hurted, as she would see that there's two Tomoe in his eyes. She doesn't know what Tomoe is, but all she knows that there used to be one of them. So she would just say, "Oh, you just got to level 2 of your quirk, and that's probably why it is. So just deactivate it and just come and sit there." And Deku would basically be pretty mad that, that Bakugo pretty much is not his friend anymore. So as he would go to sleep, he would basically wake up the next day feeling pretty angry, since he would go to school and people would keep on saying that he had a villain quirk, because how his quirk worked. All he can do is just have illusions and do illusions on people, and it would never help anybody, so it's evil. And he would get bullied for that. Bakugo spreaded a rumor around Deku wasn't there. He pretty much became the laughing stock of the classroom, as Deku would get fed up with it months later, as he would get into a little fight with Bakugo. Bakugo and his goons would pretty much run at Deku, and Deku not really being experienced of using his quirk at all, only knowing that he can do illusions, and he hasn't even used the two Tomoe Sharingan, so he doesn't know anything about it. So he just tries to use it, and it doesn't do much. So Bakugo and his goons would jump him, and Deku would be unconscious, so they would all dip. This would pretty much happen after school, as Deku would soon wake up, actually feeling in a lot of pain, as Inko would basically bring him back home. Years later, he would pretty much say he would get his revenge on Bakugo for basically beating the fuck out of him. So Deku would basically start training, and when he would get home from when the fight happened, he would basically go to sleep, as he needed to heal. He would he would go to sleep as he needed to heal, and he would basically be in the black void. It was like endlessly black. He would eventually find a corner to sit in, as he would cry that he lost his friend, and all he can do is just try to basically fight him, because they're enemies at this point. And Madara would basically say to wipe his tears, as Deku would look up and he would say, "Who are you?" And Madara, towering over him, he would say that we are Madara Uchiha, as he would see that he has the same eyes as him. This would make Deku actually happy, and he would basically activate his Sharingan, as he would see that the man was wearing he was wearing a dark blue shirt with red battle armor, as Deku would realize I really don't know who this guy is. So they would have a conversation and they would train. It's like a time chamber. Deku's in there for, multiple. Deku's in there for a long time, actually. He's in there for at least 10 years, but it's really only been 10 hours. So Deku, pretty much having no school that day, he would sleep an extra 2 hours, so he would basically train, and he would basically wake up a lot stronger, and he wouldn't care about Bakugo anymore. Time skip for 10 years later of him training with Madara for a very long time, he would basically start to go and start to use his Sharingan a lot more, being proud of the Sharingan, being proud of the power that he has. So when he went to school that day after 10 years of training, he knows that he's just that nigga, cause he has the three Tomoe Sharingan, he has it all. And Deku, after school, he would basically, or at the end of it, he would basically pack up his bags and dip. As he's pretty much walking down the hall, he would see Bakugo walking with him. Bakugo would have this angry look on his face, as Deku would just look at him, and Bakugo wouldn't say anything to him, as Deku would notice that his goons are behind him. He would realize that he's finna get jumped. So, as he would get outside, he would body flicker right to a tree, then put down his book bag and activate his three Tomoe. As Bakugo and his goons are running after him, he would have a flashback, and it's Madara. It's Madara fighting the Great Ninja War Alliance, bodying thousands of shinobi in pure seconds, and flipping over them, chopping them on the neck, slicing them in half. As Deku would do the same, flip over people, throwing them, punching them, chopping them on the neck, not slicing people in half, but beating the fuck out of these niggas. So Deku would basically would basically easily beat everybody, but now there's only at least 3 goons and Bakugo himself. Deku would go after the one that looked the most hurt out of the goons, and with one swift kick to the face, the goon went down easy. As Bakugo would run after Deku, as Deku would body flicker right behind him and pretty much throw a kunai right at Bakugo. Bakugo would get his shirt stuck into a tree, so he would basically rip out the kunai and throw it on the ground. So you brought your little toys with you, as him and the one other, because Deku took care of the other goon. Well, Bakugo was stuck on a tree, and him and the other goon basically go to attack Deku. As Deku would basically see that they're both running at him, he would grab Bakugo by the arm and the goon by the hair, as he would basically throw the goon on the ground, knocking him out. As what he would do to Bakugo, as he grabbed his arm, as Bakugo was trying to use explosions on him, he would just grab Bakugo's wrist and basically slam him on the ground while breaking his wrist, and Bakugo would feel the pain. He hurting now. So he would use his biggest explosion, as he knows it would break his arm, but if he beats Deku, well, he beat Deku. That's all that really matters. So he deploys the explosion, and he's not too good. He ain't doing too good after that. Bakugo would break his arm. He's screaming in pain as his explosion is going after him. Deku, in a split second, seeing Bakugo, somebody who used to be his friend, somebody who he used to actually think of a friend. So as you would basically see him on the floor, bloody and beaten up, and with a broken wrist and a broken arm, barely being able to walk, he would basically get that extra thick boost from Madara. Madara would open his cell, and basically this dark void is Deku's cell, but the cell is totally white. But Madara just opened it, so now he can use chakra. And he also unlocked something else. He unlocked the Rinnegan just for a couple of seconds. He used one of the paths of the Rinnegan to basically, to absorb Bakugo's explosion. As he would do this, he was like, okay. As Bakugo would scream, "You monster! You're evil!" As Deku would say, "I don't really care." Deku having no sympathy for Bakugo anymore, because even after he lost, even after all of this, even after Deku not really doing anything to Bakugo, all he kind of did before this day was try to be Bakugo's friend, and Bakugo didn't want to be friends, so forget about him. So as Deku was walking away, he just for some reason has deja vu again, like he did. Then he would have a flashback of when Madara left the Leaf Village, when he was talking to Hashirama after he talked to Hashirama, and they didn't become friends, and they stopped being friends. He pretty much has a flashback until then. Deku would stop and sit at a tree and go into his mind state, as he would basically be in this place and he would see Madara. As he would see Madara, he would basically be like, okay, you saw the fight, so how did I do? And Madara said that he did pretty good. And Deku said that, like, how did I absorb Bakugo's explosion? And Madara would say, that's what I kind of wanted to talk about, because that's not normal. Since I'm from a different dimension where chakra that you used that I just opened for you, I just basically just opened chakra that I just basically opened the cell for the chakra that you can't use. You can only use the Sharingan before then, but now you can use chakra, and I'm here to basically teach you every jutsu I know. And Deku would say, yeah, but what is chakra? As Madara would explain it to him, it's basically the same thing that he's using in his eyes, but in this universe, it just comes natural to him without using chakra because it's his quirk. So as Deku would understand what's going on, he would get trained by Madara, and Madara would basically say during the training that it's not normal to absorb like explosions because that wasn't even like quirks are not chakra. As he was like, what? He was like, so that's how that move works, and Madara would say yes. But Madara would have a hypothesis. He would basically realize that, oh, maybe quirks were used to be chakra. I mean, maybe because quirks are in this universe of this what if, basically watered down chakra. Sucky chakra, basically. So, Madara would basically tell Deku this. So Deku would be like, okay, so I only had that limited amount of chakra that I was using for my quirk. And Madara would say, oh, I guess so. As Deku and Madara would train, and eventually, throughout the 11 months, he would not meet All Might. He would just train with Madara and stay in his house. So Deku would basically would go to the UA entrance exam. As Deku is really feeling like the man. He has Twin Mangekyo Sharingan, and he even unlocked the Rinnegan. As Deku knows to be using them like that, he's just gonna use them for last. Like he's gonna use the Twin Mangekyo, but he ain't gonna use the Rinnegan. He ain't gonna do that to him. That's kind of bullying, bro. So, he would basically, if I say Twin Mangekyo, I mean just 2 Mangekyo. That's what I mean, okay? So, as he's pretty much walking, when he does trip, Madara is like, really? You really gonna trip in my presence? I'm Madara Uchiha, you're supposed to be representing, you gonna trip? Really? As he would basically be caught by Uraraka's quirk. As they would have a short little conversation, and Deku would have a lot of other people talk to him because he's basically Madara. So Deku would basically pull up, and he would basically go to the written exam. It was a history exam, so he would get every answer right, or every question right, because Madara, he's from the past, technically. So yeah, Deku is going to the explanation for the robot exam, as he would understand and have a plan by the time that he would get to the gate. As he was going to Uraraka to talk, and since Madara and Deku have that ninja mind state to always stay with the people that pretty much always be with a team. And since he really only knows like Uraraka like that, he kind of just wants to go over there and pretty much deploy a team to get more points than anybody else. But as Ida would go to try to stop him, Deku would easily Ida would basically, put his hand on his shoulder, and Madara, which I'm gonna call Madara because every time Deku uses his quirk, he's more like Madara than anything. So Madara would basically activate the Rinnegan, and he would basically, with his head down so no one could see that he was activating the Rinnegan, just not with his head down, like down, but just looking down. As Ida basically, as he's talking to him, it doesn't seem like Deku's listening at all. So he's about to say something else, but he just puts his hand out as Ida's like, what are you doing? And he would just Shinra Tensei him. Or not really Shinra Tensei, but Banjo Tenin. Basically push him away. And he would just fly all the way back as the gate would open. As Uraka and him are running, or he would catch up to Uraka pretty easily, and he would basically explain that he wants to make a team with her and get a lot of more points than anybody else. Uraka, knowing that her quirk is not as useful as whatever the fuck that this nigga just did, he just says, yeah. She just says, yeah. Yeah. So Madara would smirk, and he would basically ask what was the quirk, or Deku would smirk and ask what is her quirk. She would say zero gravity, and she said, you can make people float, right? And she would say yeah. So she would just make Madara float, as he would basically grab her by the arm and basically throw her to different robots, as she would latch onto them and make them float, as as Deku would basically use fireball jutsu and burn them, as Uraka would just fall off every robot and just make herself float. So you're basically making robots float, as Madara is using fireball jutsu. If I say Madara, I mean Deku. If I say Deku, sometimes I mean Madara. So yeah. So Deku and Uraka pretty much racked up at least 100 points. Like put together, they both got 50. As they would both disperse because the match is about to end. There's only like a minute left, so there's no reason for them to take more points. They got some good points. As this is a bad idea because she still gets hit by the zero pointer, as Madara would have to save her, and since Madara didn't even go to the zero pointer, he just went right to Uraka, as the foot of the zero pointer is about to crush Uraka. He would just go right under it and pretty much save Uraka easily with his strength, because Madara has enough strength to basically pick that shit up. Like, bro, he has so much chakra that he can chakra enhance himself to the point where he can basically rip that shit apart. So he would just make a shadow clone to carry Uraka and basically heal her with his healing jutsu that he would have because he was in a ninja war. So Madara would basically, or Deku would have the memories of Madara, so he would know of Naruto and Sasuke and their jutsu. So he was actually training on this jutsu with Madara. It's called the Rasen Chidori. It's a Rasengan with lightning release on it. So Deku would drive it into the ground as he would go up the leg of it, and it would slowly start falling apart as he would take off the head and do a backflip and land on the ground, making a crater, as he would basically dust off his shirt, as the clone would disappear, and now Uraka can basically walk. Madara or Deku would basically smirk. I'm just gonna say Deku for now because I keep on getting it mixed up. So Deku would just smirk at Uraka, and she would say thank you for saving her, and she shouldn't. I guess I'm gonna have to be by your side because when I wasn't, I pretty much got bodied. So yeah. So now Uraka and him, they're kind of a team now. So yeah. So now Deku days later will be able to already know that he got in. He knows that he's just that good. And yeah. It's too good for him. So as he would get an envelope of that he got in. The next day he would go to UA, and he would just actually, since when he goes to sleep he would be in the mind state, he would actually be a little bit late. So he would arrive around the time of Uraka So he would basically come around the time of Uraraka. They would both see each other. They would greet each other. Then they would go inside, and they would be looking for the class. Eventually, they would find it, and Deku and Uraraka, they would both walk in, and they would sit pretty near each other as, yeah. And Ito would kind of walk up to him. He says, well, you're a superior student denied, but I don't appreciate that you use your quirk on me. And Deku would just look at him with the Sharingan as he would put him in the Genjutsu, which Ida cannot get out because he doesn't have a chakra. He doesn't have his chakra cell unsealed. So Ida would just make him jump out the window. Like he would actually just open the window and jump out. As a second before the Genjutsu would end, because that's how Deku wanted it, he would just realize that he's about to die. Not literally, but no, he's pretty much about to feel some pain. As people was like, oh my god, why'd he jump out the window? And that's what Deku would say too. Pretty much playing it off like he did nothing. As Bakugo would basically say, oh, so you use your quirk on him, you made him jump out the window. And people be like, oh, wait, so that's his quirk? I mean, I don't think so, because he's using some different shit. But, and, Deku would just look at him with that Sharingan. He said, no, it's not my quirk at all. As he would put, him in the Genjutsu, and Bakugo, he banged his head on the desk. It would wake Aizawa up. Aizawa would basically like, shut up, please, shut up. As he would just basically tell him to go put on the uniforms and dip. As they would go put on the uniforms, he would get Deku to hand the ball to him. And Deku, like, okay. So he would basically take the ball and he would throw it straight. He would throw it. Actually, he wouldn't throw it. He would activate his Rinnegan. And he would tell people to stand back. And everybody just moves away. Like he's like back. It's like, what type of movie are you trying to pull off? Or is he just being a bum? So as he pretty much activates the full Susanoo, as people was like, damn, son. But you don't have to have the Mangekyo Sharingan activated. You just have to have one. Or have the Mangekyo Sharingan at one point in time. Because there'd be niggas with no eyes be using it. So if he can use it while having the Rinnegan out, I'm going to make him use it with having the Rinnegan out. So he would basically use it and be like, okay, so he has the ball in his hand and he would throw it up. And he would basically hit it with his weapon, as he would basically body flicker to it. As he kind of hit it, he would body flicker to it. And Deku's so fast that he can do this a million times in like a second. So he pretty much keep on body flickers to different places as they just see a flash of purple or flash of blue, because it's not his Susanoo, it's blue one. So it's just seeing a flash of blue everywhere as the ball is pretty much going to... It even says error at this point, unreadable. And it would get 999. And basically 999 is basically another error. Then we would just go into infinity. Basically, 999 is basically an uncountable number. It's just 999. It's an uncountable number. So they just put it to the closest number, which that's what Aizawa says. So it wasn't even exactly infinity, which Bakugo would smirk. See, he didn't even get infinity. No, he got over infinity. They're like, oh my god, bro, this nigga's a god. He's a god. As Madara would just fall and easily just land on... He would just land on his feet and with no pain. He just fell 50,000 feet. That don't faze him. He's Madara Uchiha now. And he would basically just stand back into the line as people would be looking at him. As he would just walk. as he would just do every other test and get first place and everything. As basically the race didn't even come close, body flicker. I mean, all he really did, he let everybody pass him, and like a second before they can even reach the finish line, he would say Shinra Tensei, pulling them all towards him, and he would just body flicker right there. And then they're like, Nani? And people like, since All Might never met him, and he has multiple abilities like Susanoo, and he literally can he literally just did that. So he's like, nah, this ain't it, Chief. As though Bakugo would get fed up at this, and he would throw an explosion at Deku. The teacher's too slow, so all the teacher can do is watch as the other kids do as well. And it's like an inch away from him, as Deku just put his hand up to block his face, as he would just absorb it. And like the teacher would be astonished that he can take quirks. And even All Might would say, like, okay. So All Might would just walk out, and he'd be like, okay. Actually, we're going to be doing an exam with me now, so yeah, this class is over. And now All Might pretty much has a conversation with Deku. He says, Zuko Midori, I want to talk to you right here. And like he seems like he's actually like he's not keeping cool, like he's not calm when he's talking at this point. So he pretty much says, okay, so I'm gonna be straightforward with you. There's an enemy that pretty much made me not be able to be All Might for long, and are you his son? Like, are you All for One's son? And like, cause you really just took this man's quirk, or at least you took his explosion. And Deku is just listening to him as he lists off that he pretty much pulled people towards him, and he basically has a Susanoo. He's like, that's like 3 different things, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, what crack are you on? And some type of teleportation, because that's what it kind of is. Like, it kind of is teleportation. And he would just explain that, nah, I don't know who that guy is, but I'm just that good, as he would just leave. And basically the match would start. He would go against Todoroki and Bakugo and Uraraka. Yeah, as soon as he hears that he's on Uraraka's team, he's like, he got a smirk on his face, because he knows he already has a plan for if he was on Uraraka's team, so it's just gonna fit perfectly. So Uraraka would basically ask what the plan was, and Madara would basically say, okay, the plan is to basically use your quirk, or actually, no, I'll use my quirk to basically teleport us to the top, and, well, okay, yeah, I'll use my quirk to teleport us to the top, and I can turn into an object, and you can throw me right next to the bomb. And basically, once they do get to the top, we're using body flicker, Deku would basically just turn into he would basically just turn into a kunai, as Uraraka would basically throw the kunai right through from the ceiling, because yeah, there's actually an opening there. So yeah, she would just throw it right there, right next to the bomb, as he would de-transform as smoke would cover the room. Todoroki would start using his ice quirk, as it would say hero team wins, as they can only see Madara or Deku. Yeah, so you can only see Deku with the bomb. So there was a hero team wins as Todoroki has his face of despair. So does Bakugo because he's barely even got down to the fourth floor. They're like, Nani? How did he do it? As Madara would just dust off his shirt like he usually does and say, well, we basically teleported to the top and we just opened the hatch from the top of the ceiling and I turned into a weapon and she just basically threw me on the ground and I de-transformed and yeah, I just won easily. So that's why I'm going to leave this one.